The season is already underway, but it's time for TSB Television to make its grand entrance for the 24-25 high school basketball season. Welcome to the birthplace of intercollegiate basketball, Hamline University. Another edition of the Pat Paterson Thanksgiving Tip-Off. I'm Mike Peden, he's Alex Nagel, and we've got a doozy. These two play each other every year, and it's always a lot of fun. The DeLaSalle Islanders and Minnehaha Academy Redhawks.
You know, it really is, Mike, and how exciting it is to be here for one of the early season opening games of this Pat Paterson Thanksgiving holiday tournament. You know, two teams that have been on the big stage before and have had their share of success. So I'm really interested to see what happens here this evening with these two teams, what they bring and what they have to offer.
Well, as we noted at the start, the season began last week because of where Thanksgiving fell. Minnehaha split their first two games, beating Andover convincingly, losing a close one with Orono, and DeLaSalle hung in there with Eden Prairie, came up short at the Breakdown Tip-Off Classic. But Addi Mack leading the way for Minnehaha, already the school's all-time leading scorer, should get to 4,000 points. DeLaSalle, you've got the Richmond commit, Aneisha Scott. Alex, this game could be a battle of point guards.
No, I tell you what, you talk about somebody like Addi Mack, a senior now, so good and so productive on both ends of the floor. I'm really excited to watch her this evening, Mike.
The starters for the two teams, Minnehaha, it's Sine Hill, Addi Mack, Amina Allen, Caroline Sonstegard, and Brianna Foster, who came over from Park Center. DeLaSalle will start Maya McNeil, Aneisha Scott, Layla Moses, Maddie Blaylark, and Ariana Meister. Now, if this is your first time following the season, a few changes. Issa Griefenhagen transferred from Minnehaha Academy to DeLaSalle. There was some turbulence, and for DeLaSalle, Jordan Johnson not playing this year, choosing to focus on volleyball, going to UC Santa Barbara. That being said, Layla Moses did quite well last week. She might take over Jordan's spot in the interior, or at least help out Ariana Meister. So a lot of changes. Minnehaha with the new coach as well, and Kendall Givens, an assistant from last year. A lot of new faces. DeLaSalle, Ana Garcia in her first year after James Bassett took a college job. So, Alex, a lot of storylines in this matchup as both teams are running out of the gate, but they come up empty on their first possession.
Well, first possession by each team, you see turnovers or missed shots. It is those small things that early on in the season that you have to get better at.
We did see some rough possession efficiency last week at the Tip-Off Classic that launched the new year for a lot of teams. Addi Mack on the take. Missed the runner. Here's Scott. Moses calling for it. Scott pulls up instead and is short. Rebound. No putback for Moses, but watch out for number 20. Again, really looked fluid out there against Eden Prairie. Foster, that was a step. That is another early season hiccup.
Well, good looks on both ends of the floor. Both teams, they just simply have not been able to knock them down yet. It's a matter of getting settled down and getting into your groove.
Foster, a freshman, played last year at Park Center as an 8th grader. Here's a three. No Plinko bounce from McNeil. Meister with the rebound and the putback. Ariana, one of the steady hands. Minnehaha pushing. Sine Hill got bumped from behind. We play on. Scott hands it off to Meister. Bounce pass to Moses. Allen with the block. Alex, you and I got to see some of Amina's defensive prowess last year.
Yeah.
I believe she got the game-winning block against Crosby Ironton, if you remember that meeting.
You know, those defensive plays, just like we saw down there, never get the credit that they deserve.
Well, that's why we're here. Moses had some trouble. Moses guarded heavily by Sonstegard. She'll shoot 2. Moses scored 18 points last week against Eden Prairie in a game that DeLaSalle was in contention to win up until about 5 minutes left. Gets the front end to go. Listed at 5'8". I swear she's taller, though, when I see her out on the floor. Either that or I'm getting smaller. If she's 5'8", I'm 5'5".
Like me, 5'6".
Moses splits at the line. DeLaSalle with an early 3-0 lead. But, of course, these two played each other to a photo finish last year. Wouldn't be surprised if that's the case this year. Sine Hill kicks out to Foster. Now Allen. Skip to Sine Hill. I feel Sine could be primed for a breakout year. Came up clutch several times as a sophomore last year, but missed the runner. Moses sees a lane. Sonstegard this time sets herself up. And now Addi Mack has it in stride. Draws the blocking foul on Scott. Addi Mack closing in on 4,000 career points. And earlier this month, announced her commitment to play at Maryland. I talked to her a little bit beforehand, and she just really appreciated, admired the coaching they have there, the culture they've got, and Brenda Fries knows a thing or two about this game.
Yeah. You know, one thing I'm noticing her early on, DeLaSalle is doing a very, very good job with their man-to-man defense, and I think it's going to be important in this contest, Mike, for Minnehaha to get into as many transition opportunities as they can to loosen that man-to-man defense up a little bit.
Addi Mack, money at the free throw line. And that puts the Redhawks on the board. Scott, Meister, through the hole, count it.
What a move.
Ariana Meister had an older sister, Nevaeh, who played varsity ball at Tartan and later Cretin-Durham Hall.
I tell you, this early going, Moster's been doing an exceptional job on both ends of the floor and finishes a three-point attempt there.
Meister with a quick 5. Here comes the Islander pressure. Mack got across in time. Allen, touch 3. Graces the front iron. Scott. Committed. (8-2), Islanders lead. Aneisha Scott out on the floor for DeLaSalle. She and Foster were teammates last year at Park Center, but Tyler Coley stepped away from the Pirates, so a lot of the athletes there dispersed. Blaylark's 3 offline. Hill with the rebound. Mack finds Allen, pump fakes out to Addi. We know she can knock down threes. Addi, spin move, yes! And the foul.
You know, one thing about Addi Mack that doesn't get talked about enough, we know that she can shoot the ball, obviously. She's, as you say, closing in on 4,000 career points, but she distributes the ball so well too, Mike.
And that was an excellent give-and-go set that Mack and Allen ran. And Amina has been a quiet riser, so to speak. Didn't play a lot her first year at Minnehaha. Picked up more minutes a couple years ago with all the injuries they had, and has really evolved into a reliable role player for the Redhawks. Blaylark trying to skip it inside to Taylor Starks. Doesn't work out. Taylor bounces it off of Allen. If you're wondering, for those who watch the NSBN coverage of the breakdown tip-off, Taylor is back to normal. She had perhaps the most infamous moment of her career, scoring a layup on the wrong basket. Maddie Blaylark knows where to shoot it, though, especially from three-point range. And to clarify on Taylor, it was a reflex move. She's laughing about it now. Amina Allen not laughing about her mid-range game, though. Can't get it to work there. DeLaSalle with an early 11-5 lead. Scott doesn't have the numbers. Shafa. Out to Scott. Pulls up from the elbow. Short. And the rebound collected by one of the new faces for Minnehaha, Georgia Watkins. Started last week. Mack lobs it. Georgia kicks out to Allen. As you know, 35-second shot clock. Sine.
Yep.
Dragged her feet.
Step. DeLaSalle doing a great job with her half-court defense here so far, Mike.
I am not in a position to disagree. I will say on the Minnehaha end, I'm glad I only have to worry about one hill this year after covering 2 or 3 of them for the last 5 or 6 years. Maddie Blaylark drains the runner. She's got 5, and Alex DeLaSalle with the early jump. 13-5, 5 minutes into this game. Mack. That was a tough angle. Allen got her own miss. Sine, side fade. Short on the 3.
That was one of the few possessions where it wasn't a one-and-done deal for Minnehaha.
Scott in trouble. Shafa, straightaway 3. Goes right. Sine Hill picking up a lot of rebounds in the early going. Georgia Watkins left alone, and the 7th grader with the fast break bucket. Now, I don't have a lot of precedent for Georgia because you can't play varsity in 6th grade, but I did see her play at the Triple Threat Showcase that Crystal Flint hosts, and she looked sharp. Minnehaha gets the stop. Georgia Watkins getting back on defense. And Alex, she was a little overwhelmed. She started last week in the loss to Orono, fouled out of the game, but needed some consoling from her mother, who is a St. Thomas graduate. Mary Tomes, if the name sounds familiar, back in the 90s. She goes by Mary Watkins now, but Georgia looking a little more calm out there. Foster missing the 3. Gets her own miss. Goes up. Can't bank in the runner. Scott collects the rebound. Scott had the pass knocked away.
Well, so far, despite things going a bit on the rough side on the offensive end for Minnehaha, they're hanging in there, down just 6 here at the 11:34 mark of this first half, Mike.
Nowhere near panic mode for either team. 2 who have made the state tournament. Minnehaha put DeLaSalle in a bind. Addi Mack with the steal, and that's it. Addi off to a sluggish start. A little uncharacteristic. Shafa beats Mack and gets a free trip to the rim. Mack will try again. One thing about Addi, Alex, she will not give up if she misses a drive.
Oh no, she's on it like a snapping turtle. Trust me.
Addi won't flinch just because of a miscue. Another deflection.
Here she comes again.
Mack with the steal. McNeil alongside. Addi, back-to-back fast break buckets. Addi, one of those players where it's only a matter of time before she finds the hole, and it's 15-11. DeLaSalle sees their margin trimmed to 4.
You know, it's just she has that takeover ability that you don't see that often from players, and that, you know, just a bit ago, they were staring at an 8-point deficit. Now they've got it down to 4 in a brand new ballgame.
10:42 left. Another storyline, Alex, and this concerns Addi and the cover athlete for this year's breakdown, Jordan Odie. We'll talk more about it in the next game with Minnetonka playing, but you know Aaliyah Crump went to Montverde Prep in Florida, which opened up the Miss Basketball race. Addi Mack now considered one of the 2 likely candidates to snag that award since Aaliyah is no longer in the state.
Yeah, that's...
And I wonder, haven't heard a whole lot of chatter about it because I was worried at the start would people look at it and put an asterisk because Aaliyah's not here. But it only took me a minute to think about it and go, wait a minute, Addi and Jordan are the all-time leading scorers at their respective schools. Addi has done all kinds of wonderful things. Maybe they don't have the state titles yet, but they have pretty accomplished resumes.
Right.
I don't think they will be any less deserving. Moses with Hill on her face, and that's the double whammy. But Alex, that was great defense by Hill. You know this, a contested jumper, never easy to make.
Right.
Meister. Now Blaylark. Addi Mack leading the defensive charge. That's her third steal in the last 3 possessions or so. Drive and kick, no 3. That was Denasia Anderson. Blaylark finds McNeil. Hill with the board. Addi Mack recovers and flips it in. Just like she drew it up, right?
3 straight possessions.
3 straight scores for Mack.
Yep.
She's got 8. And already has a pair of 30-point games. Aneisha Scott in a jam again. And Minnehaha can tie or take the lead here. Matt to Allen, you bet.
There's that distribution aspect that we were talking about a little while ago. Tie ball game.
And that's something Addi really diversified last year. She took on more responsibilities with defense and passing than she did before. And it showed. Moses. Bounce pass to Meister. Goes up. Was open initially. Dead ball rebound to DeLaSalle. And here comes Isa Griefenhagen. Missed the first game of the year with an ankle injury. Isa and Sine Hill still close friends, but Alex, this has to be a bit surreal and emotional. She didn't leave on the best of terms, as I understand it. Now you've got to go up against the team that you've been riding with for the last couple of years. It reminds me, Alex, we did a game years ago when Azaria Chevre transferred from Tartan to Simley and had to go against her old teammates.
Yeah.
I did talk to the coaches at Minnehaha, and they said ultimately you got to move forward. You know,
Easier said than done.
Yeah, change is part of it. You just got to push forward. Shafa on the take. Griefenhagen with the rebound. Blaylark. Alex, Minnehaha, they really are locking in that lane. I am not seeing as many easy looks down low for the Islanders. Mack, deep 3. She can shoot from there. Dead ball rebound. Back to DeLaSalle. 8:14 left in the first half.
Yeah, I would say the only disappointing aspect if you're Kendall Givens of Minnehaha is that it's really on the offensive end. It's kind of been a one and done deal. But here comes Addi Mack. Probably trying to do a little too much there, but she got away with it.
I think Addi saw or sensed a defender coming, adjusted the handle.
Had to improvise a little bit.
Well, and it worked out. They drew a foul out of it and get a chance to reset. Not ideal, but
we don't live in a perfect world either.
No, it's rare to get the ideal circumstance. Sine will shoot 2. Sine, if you don't know the story, she's the daughter of P.J. Hill and part of the Hill dynasty.
Sine really used a burst of speed there to get past her defender. And
And
See
Sine
if she can get something from the charity stripe here.
enjoys crocheting, and when she's not playing basketball, and through the first couple of games, averaging 13 and a half. Again, I think Sine is going to be one of the leaders as she gets Minnehaha in front.
And I believe at the 7:57 mark here of this first half, that is Minnehaha's first lead of the ballgame.
It is. Griefenhagen can't bank it in. Starks wins the scrum. Schaffa for three. Long. Griefenhagen rebound. Starks. 3 or 4 chances there, nothing to show for it. Hill kicks out to Mack. Fakes the three, goes to the hole and puts it in.
What a beautiful move along the baseline by Addi Mack. Goodness gracious.
We've seen her execute that effectively more than once. Can you believe, Alex, this is her last year? She's a senior. There's a foul. I was reminded of all the moments I've covered in Addi's career, beginning as a 7th grader when she was at Blake. Proof that I'm getting old. I know, well, I should be mindful of my company here because, yes, I know you've got a few years on me.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's okay, though.
Scott draws a foul. Aneisha, no stranger to these environments. She's a sneakerhead, but first time I saw her in action was a freshman at DeLaSalle. She hit the game-winning free throws against a good Mankato East team. And from there, her stock has gone up. I feel like one of the uncut gems, unheralded gems. She's an impact player, but you don't talk as much about her because you've got folks like Addi Mack and Sam Wills and Jordan Odie who lead the way in the 25 class. But she makes both free throws, 18-17 the score. Minnehaha in front by 1. Mack had it knocked away. Who touched it last? DeLaSalle. So it's Minnehaha ball. Mack on the inbound. Driving kick, Allen, that's for 3. Remember, we used the high school line.
Great hustle there.
Gigi Coleman chasing it down. Now Foster gives it a crack. Griefenhagen skies up for the board. Wants to go outlet for Starks. Taylor with the layup.
Great pass by Griefenhagen on that.
Well, Issa does
Where
play.
the assist.
Issa does play a guard at her natural spot. She played post last year at Minnehaha because they didn't have a true 5. Addi had a hard angle there, but a foul on DeLaSalle. (19-18). And Kendall Givens will call a timeout. I understand, Alex, last week at the Minnehaha-Orono game, Addi did some floor coaching, although she does have a lot of experience and wherewithal, know-how, having been at Minnehaha for so long. And if you can't find a better, I was going to say, I can't think of a better person to lead a transition, especially one that came so suddenly.
Yeah.
And on the DeLaSalle side, they're hanging in there. These two teams hanging tough. Neither side really has any separation.
Yeah. No, you know, the thing I've noticed, we saw that DeLaSalle got off to a pretty solid start, and there were some struggles on the offensive end for Minnehaha, but I think they've kind of tightened things up, the Redhawks have, on the defensive end. That's kind of allowed them to get some more opportunities, especially with Addi Mack doing her thing.
Both teams using a timeout. Addi Mack, she's been doing her thing for years. 1 of 3 to get over 1,000 points last season. That's in a season.
Here she goes again.
Looking for 2 more. For those of you who either scrolled ahead on YouTube or are watching this late, I feel like, Alex, Addie's start, it's like those NFL teams that go 2-2 and then rip a big winning streak. Addie missed her first couple of layups. She's got 12 points. Grievenaken goes behind the back. Bounce pass to Whitaker Hill, not on target. Whitaker stayed on the pivot. That was close, but Whitaker Hill will take it.
Whitaker Hill.
21-20. These two heavyweights throwing punches in a title bout. Mack, the runner, short this time.
You know, Addi was trying to tip that to her teammate, obviously. Had the right idea, she just couldn't control it.
Well, and when you smack or spike it like that, it is tougher to control.
Yeah.
That was not a miscue by Mack. I don't know if that would go down as a turnover or a dead ball rebound, but either way, that was just a hustle play for Mack. Didn't work out. Here comes the press from the Redhawks. DeLaSalle breaks.
Had the double team there and almost forced the turnover.
They do get the turnover. Sine Hill able to disrupt Ariana Meister. .448 left in the first half, 21-20. DeLaSalle reached the championship round in 3A last year, won silver. Minnehaha, they made the semifinals the last couple of years. Just haven't been able to get through. Actually, 3 straight years they've reached the semifinals, 3 straight years. They got bounced there. Sine Hill changes direction, gets the foul on Starks, and will shoot 2.
Almost thought Hill might have gotten away with a little bit of a walk on that one, but
well, Sine Hill no longer has to worry about playing her aunts at this level. They're both in college now. Angel at Tennessee State, and Jade finishing up her senior year, her college career at St. Thomas. And Jade has set all kinds of milestones.
She really has.
To usher in the D1 era. Sine, I don't know what schools are taking a look at her, but I suspect she'll play somewhere. Had the chance to interview her a couple of times last year. Supremely humbled kid. Meister collects the bounce pass. In trouble and ends up throwing it to Mack. Oh, that's a tough break for Addi Mack.
It is. I mean, she would have
had a fast break.
Yeah, exactly. So actually that worked. It was a blessing in disguise in many ways if you're DeLaSalle.
I'm thinking of an NFL equivalent where you drop a pass on, you drop an interception on a pick 6, for example.
I knew the Chicago Bear reference would somehow burst upon the scene.
Well, do you have a timeout to spare? What's the saying, Alex? Just when you think you've seen it all? Whitaker Hill beats it to Starks.
That was a rare defensive lap there by the Redhawks.
Oh, okay, Sine was across. I always get nervous when that happens. Sine didn't see a lane to attack. Now Allen needs help. Shot clock has not come into play here. You wouldn't expect that with these two.
Oh, what a pass by Hill. My goodness. She had to thread a needle on that one.
She did thread the needle, but how about Taylor Starks, who stayed with her? Didn't get lost on that cut inside. She'll sub out, but Taylor, it's nice to see her get some positive plays. You wonder what happens after you score in the wrong basket.
When you get a connection like that, that shows you how well those players work together, and they work together for a long time.
Sine pulls up. Comes up short. I don't think we've seen too many threes. No, we haven't. Natty has the one, but that's it. Blaylark can't get past Hill. Sine agile enough to stay on her assignment. And Alex, there is another example of the whistle hurting Minnehaha a bit, because Addi Mack was going to get the steal after Scott spilled, but they called Scott for the travel, so Addi can't run a fast break.
Right.
That's twice now where she had a steal and possible fast break nullified by the whistle. This is a first world problem, but if you're Addi, you got to be wondering,
right,
can you just play through?
But here's the steal the other way.
Meister reading the pass. DeLaSalle with numbers. Moses draws contact and will shoot two.
Sienna Hill probably didn't have much of a choice but to do that to avoid the easy basket.
That's her third. Minnehaha, over the last couple of years, they've played a highly aggressive defense. It has led them to get in foul trouble at times. The last year with Matt Pryor comes to mind, but we've seen the positive results too. So it's a high-risk, high-reward style of defense. Layla Moses converts the free throws, and that pushes the DeLaSalle lead to 3, 25-22. DeLaSalle looking for their first win of the year. Minnehaha split last week. Addi Mack over to Allen. Addi through the hole. Yes.
Oh, nice touch off the glass by Addi Mack. And here we go again.
DeLaSalle catches Minnehaha off guard. Sometimes, Alex, the best opportunities to score right after your opponent does. Coleman wants to go all the way and banks it off the glass. Gigi with the first bucket of the game. Scott, the runner, too strong, got her own miss, goes back up, yes. Scott with 6. Alex, blink and you'll miss something.
Yeah.
I'm loving this. Addi off the screen. Now Allen fakes, pulls up, can't hit the 3. Blaylark will settle things down. DeLaSalle doesn't have the numbers to attack anyway, at least not yet. Scott trying to work around that man. Bounce pass inside. Meister recovers. Has to kick back out. The 14-footer, pure. Back-to-back buckets for Aneisha Scott, and she's got 8. Under a minute to play in the first. Addi lobs it. Coleman looking to set up Allen. Addi from Caitlin Clark range. Off the back iron. And an over the back foul.
Well, these last 2 possessions by Minnehaha, Mike, we've seen them settle for 3-point shots that maybe they shouldn't have settled for. And that consequently has resulted in a couple easy baskets for DeLaSalle and perhaps more here and now from the free throw line to increase that 5-point cushion that they already have.
Minnehaha in the penalty. This is still 1-1. Georgia Watkins will check in for this last stretch. Naomi Whitaker did not score in the Eden Prairie game, so this is her first varsity points of the new year. DeLaSalle, one of the front runners in Class 3A, a class that is a little more open, at least at the start. Benilde St. Margaret's still in there. Alexandria tabbed as an early favorite. Stewartville, another one. I feel that's another storyline, Alex. At least for this first month of the season, there isn't a clear-cut favorite in A, 2A, or 3A.
Right.
4A, Hopkins and Minnetonka look like it's going to be a showdown between those two again. But everyone else, at least for now, they have a chance to rise up and make themselves the front runner. Coleman. Out to Mack. Minnehaha can hold. Shot clock is off with 15 seconds left. Five-second count. Now, the officials are talking this over. Alex, as I understand it, the 5-second call doesn't apply anymore on dribbles. It does on held balls since the shot clock rules were put in place last year.
Well, this is going to be interesting to say the least, Mike.
And it is Minnehaha ball. And I'm glad the officials got in there to sort that out. I think what happened, because the shot clock was off, it might not have been on that official's mind. So there is no 5-second call. Again, it only applies on held balls. It does not apply on dribbles. And I know this because Pat Barrett got me up to speed. So Minnehaha still has a chance. Addi to Coleman. The three won't go in. Allen banks in the buzzer beater.
Well, a bit of a reprieve for Minnehaha Academy, getting that last second shot right before the buzzer when things look to be falling apart a little bit, especially after Aneisha Hill had to go to the bench with those 3 fouls. So down 5, that's not necessarily a bad place to be, but DeLaSalle did a good job coming down the stretch.
And we still have 18 more minutes, so I wouldn't say falling apart, more of a stumble. These two are far too stoic and disciplined, but it is DeLaSalle who leads 33-28 in this battle of state tournament perennials. We'll be back for the second half. You're watching the Pat Paterson Thanksgiving Tip-Off at Hamline University.
Twin Cities Sports Broadcasting, and a whole lot more. That's what you get from TSB Television. We provide long-lasting digital coverage of your favorite athletes from the preps to the pros. Dazzling moves.
Holloman, good if it goes. Yes!
Game winners.
From James. She's in trouble. Finds James. Toss shot! It goes in!
And everything in between.
Before we let you go, do you want to say hi to anybody?
Oh, I don't know. That put me on the spot there.
If you want to connect with our audience, visit us at patreon.com/TSB Television or sponsor our coverage through PayPal and Cash App. Thank you for watching.
Second half about to start. Minnehaha and DeLaSalle, 5-point margin. DeLaSalle leads 33-28. The first half numbers look something like this. Addi Mack leading the way with 14 points for the Red Hawks. Aneisha Allen with 7. On the DeLaSalle side, Aneisha Scott has 8. Maddie Blaylark has 7. Alex, the biggest difference, though, bench scoring. DeLaSalle with 10 points, Minnehaha with 4. We'll see if that continues to be a factor in the second half.
And let's not forget that Aneisha Hill carrying those 3 fouls for Minnehaha as well.
So she'll have to be careful here to start the second half. And we saw foul trouble creep up in the Rosemount St. Michael Albertville game at the Tip-Off Classic last weekend. Aneisha Scott, who is highly fluent at drawing fouls, goes to the line. Aneisha Scott, a sneakerhead, also does track and is a huge fan of Miles Morales, one of the many who have donned the Spider-Man mantle.
Yeah.
Actually, it led to a fun moment last year because I hosted an interview station at the Tip-Off Classic at Hopkins, and Aneisha and Jordan Johnson came by, and we were talking about superheroes, and Aneisha said Spider-Man was her favorite. I shot back, which one? Because by that point, we had Peter Parker and Miles Morales, and she chose Miles, and I can't argue with that. Speaking of, maybe we could call her Spider-Gwen, Spider-Woman. And then Addi Mack gets in there for the disruption.
You know, I would sure like to see a stat on turnovers. That's been kind of rearing its ugly head here for the Red Hawks. And we just saw that last one there.
Meister got the inbound. Now Scott. Blaylark. Straightaway 3 is pure. And that was from the college line.
And all of a sudden, a 10-point cushion now for DeLaSalle.
Don't write off Minnehaha just yet, though. They bounce back once. And with Addi Mack leading this team, they're never out of it. Sine Hill shakes McNeil and puts her on the spin cycle.
Good answer for the Red Hawks.
That's Sine's first field goal. Driving kick, Scott to Blaylark. Bullseye.
2 possessions, 2 3-pointers.
Mack. A driving kick of her own. It's Coleman. High off the window and in.
Well, talk about making lemonade out of lemons.
Hey, you remember my line from last year. You've been studying. You've been doing your homework, Alex. 41-32, DeLaSalle with a 9-point lead. Moses. 3 is long. Allen snares the ball. Mack. Coast to coast. Count it.
Well, I tell you what, there's one way. That's one way if you're Minnehaha to get back in this ball game and have Addi Mack create for you and finish off 3-point opportunities such as this.
Addi Mack, an aficionado, proficient in a lot of sports, focused on basketball, but took up swimming and golf in her early days. Also holds a stock portfolio. Her father is an accountant, as I understand it, or works in accounting. If I'm wrong, please correct me, because I know her parents will watch this. But Addi already investing in her future, and she'll be doing a lot more investing at Maryland. Alex, every time you hear Maryland, you think of Brenda Fries. I go back to the 1 year she coached at Minnesota and helped put them on the map for a little while.
Right.
And she will be joining the likes of Jordan Odie at Michigan State. We had a clock issue, so we're going to reset it. Tori Orline, verbally committed to Minnesota. Olivia Olson, another good friend of Addi's at Michigan. So Addi's going to have a lot of top-tier competition. And let's not forget, she'll have to also deal with Juju Watkins and Lauren Betts. And how about UCLA with that big one over South
Carolina? I tell you
Carolina.
what a surprise it's been for my Bruins.
Something tells me you're enjoying their time in the Big Ten. Shafa attacks, accelerates, and finishes. Timeout. DeLaSalle looks like they have a little more pep, a little more of a spark now with 15-20 left in the second.
They, especially on the offensive end, they're playing with a bit more purpose than what they were in the first half. I mean, having 2 big 3-pointers go in for you, that's huge. But they're playing, like you said, with a better step, more quickness, more snap.
This is just one of many barometers these two teams will get throughout the course of the season. DeLaSalle, their home opener will be against Oakland Tech. Alexis Gray-Lawson coaching there now. They have their home and home, their annual series with Hopkins, and they also have their annual rivalry with Benilde St. Margaret's. That could be another state championship preview. Minnehaha will play Minnetonka at the St. Catherine MLK invite in January. They go on the road to play Duluth Marshall and Crosby Ironton. Another pair of schools that went through a lot of changes that put them in the top of the pack. Only one of those schools will get out of Section 7 and 2A. And don't forget, Minnehaha has to deal with Providence in their conference. DeLaSalle should win the Tri-Metro without a trouble. Addi Mack.
I tell you, Addi
When you're in
Mack,
trouble,
she doesn't need a big opening. She can just see it and just squirt right through. Even if it's just small like that one, she recognizes it right away.
I was going to say, when you're in trouble, Addi Mack is a player to get you out of it. Meister drops the reverse.
Pretty reverse layup there.
45-36. The points are piling up. Addi around the screen. draws the foul on Moses.
It's one thing to get, finish at your end of the floor, but if you're Minnehaha, you got to start finding ways to get stops on the defensive end. So far, Mike, they haven't been able to do that.
Issa Griefenhagen checking back in. Her minutes are limited right now as she works her way back from her ankle injury. Foster. Pass Griefenhagen, but can't get the layup to fall. Moses finds Blaylark, the southpaw. Can't drill it this time. Hot potato ensues. And Ana Garcia gets the timeout call.
And that turnover bugaboo once again rearing its ugly head for the Redhawks. And the Islanders looking to consolidate on this 9-point lead that they already have.
We talked about all the new faces in new places, and that extends to the coaching staff, not just the head coaches, but brand new regime at DeLaSalle. You might recognize one of them, Alex, on the bench, and Mary Claire Francois, who won a state championship at DeLaSalle 5 years ago.
Remember her
She played for a year at St. Catherine, finished up her education, got her nursing degree, so she's ready to set out into the world and make a difference in whatever career she chooses. Originally wasn't going to come back to high school basketball, but when Ana got the head coaching job, she reached out to Mary Claire. The two had coached some middle school ball in the Hopkins program and said, get your stuff together. Except Ana used another word that I cannot say if I want to keep this job. If only I could be like a urinating tree and have no filter like he does for This Week in Sports Ball. But I have too much respect for this profession. You'll have to wait for Mike Peden after dark.
Yeah.
Blaylark drills another three.
I tell you what, the Islanders have really been cooking from behind the arc here in this second half.
We might end up in the dark because Maddie Blaylark is shooting the lights out of this gym. Scott, Griefenhagen got out of trouble. Now Griefenhagen resets, mid-range J, bounces around, and a dead ball rebound to Minnehaha.
Meanwhile, the Redhawks get a little bit of a reprieve on that particular possession by DeLaSalle. They've got to find some ways to get stops. They're going to cut into this deficit now at 12.
Sine tried the cross-court turnover. And Maddie Blaylark had nowhere to go, so she ricochets it off of Allen to maintain possession. Maddie is another one who was a quiet riser like Aneisha Scott.
Yeah.
Players that aren't at the top of their class. They're not known on a first-name basis like Madden Greenway, Tori Orline in the 26 class or Aneisha Scott in the 25 class, but they aren't slouches. Shafa, 3-ball, and it rims out. Jump ball. DeLaSalle with the arrow.
DeLaSalle just much more aggressive on the boards here. And Minnehaha has to find a way to match that if they're going to get back into this contest.
It does help for DeLaSalle that they were able to find enough height to replace Jordan Johnson. And it wasn't just her height. Jordan, if you remember when she played basketball at DeLaSalle, one of the strongest posts around. Actually, it's Minnehaha who held the arrow. And when Jordan told me she wasn't going to play basketball, I was wondering maybe DeLaSalle takes a step back. But we saw Layla Moses play well against Eden Prairie. Issa, again, plays more of a guard, but can bring that rebounding presence. Had a chance to call a semi-pro game with her back in October. That's a foul on Shafa. And Issa's just a pleasant figure to talk to. I've gotten to know her well over the years. I've also acquainted myself with the Mack family. There's a lot to like in this matchup. A lot of young women to root for. Anderson. Ooh. Alex, I was about to say if this were a college court, Issa would have been all right. Then I realized this is a college court.
That takes a little bit of an adjustment, too.
Remember, the college courts, even at D3, are 10 extra feet.
The Redhawks simply cannot find a way to convert on opportunities right now.
Shafa. DeLaSalle hitting their marks. Shafa up to 6. Mack's pass, I think, was disrupted. DeLaSalle on the run. Scott outruns Hill and takes it to the cup.
Yeah, Kendall Given wants a timeout. I mean, when you start seeing Addi Mack turn the ball over, careless turnover like that, then you know things are really the wheels are starting to fall off of your Minnehaha Academy.
So a wise timeout in our estimation. But this, I don't want to say flies in the face of what we expected, Alex. But at the start, I'm thinking, how is DeLaSalle going to manage without one of their big-time post players anchoring the interior? And we've gotten our answer. Now DeLaSalle picked up a couple of transfers that have bolstered their ranks. When Blaylark is shooting like she is, that goes a long way too. But DeLaSalle, it's like watching the Packers with their quarterbacks. It doesn't matter who's at the helm, who's leading the way on the floor. They just always find a way to stay relevant, to stay competitive.
Yeah.
I was asking myself this when Faye Johnson-Patterson left. Aneisha Scott had a great run.
Right.
James Fassett came in after Aneisha Scott had a falling out of sorts. And DeLaSalle kept their winning ways.
Yep.
Now, it's early. This is only game 2 for DeLaSalle. But they held their own with Eden Prairie. They could have picked up the win there. They're up by 16 against Minnehaha. I think that game with Benilde St. Margaret's will really highlight a lot about the favorite in 3A. But you have to like this early impression from the Islanders.
No question about it. You know, if they can find a way to pick up a win here this evening, that's going to be a huge boost of confidence for the Islanders.
In terms of class, it doesn't favor them for QRF, but at the higher classes, 3A, 4A, we'll have a jump ball, and the arrow favors Minnehaha.
Yeah, the Redhawks right now just having tons of problems with their half-court offense.
Or arrow favors DeLaSalle. I stand corrected. I got my directions crossed. But here's Griefenhagen. Shuffled her feet. I couldn't see it because a lot of people are obscuring my vantage point, but I'm going to trust that Issa moved her feet a bit. I was going to say, Alex, this is one of those matchups where the people who seed the sections in state, they understand the significance. They don't look at class and go, oh, DeLaSalle beat a 2A team. No, they're playing a high-quality team. This is one of those games, Alex, where whoever gets the win will get the resume builder because everyone knows how viable these two are. Shafa's 3, short. Now can Minnehaha settle things down? Can they get a bucket? Allen can certainly do that. The threes just aren't going in. Alex, one trend I'm noticing so far, Minnehaha has not hit a three-pointer. DeLaSalle, they've gotten a few to fall, particularly from Blaylark.
They haven't been perfect, but they've hit the big ones.
An inverse of the DeLaSalle Eden Prairie game last week. Griefenhagen. Over to Shafa. I should point out, Griefenhagen played soccer at Minnehaha before making the switch. Aneisha Scott take for the foul. I think that was her third. They don't put them up on the board. And I see members of the Hamlin women's basketball team helping out. Alex, the ball security, ball control for Minnehaha, still suspect.
You know, if you're head coach Kendall Gibbons right now, you might be reaching for the bottle of Tylenol PM with all the turnovers the Red Hawks are committing tonight.
Well, I've got some spare ibuprofen from the root canal I had done earlier this week, so if he needs one or anyone else needs a dose, I've got plenty. Scott had trouble on the dribble, and DeLaSalle has to get the bailout timeout call in there. Aneisha Scott, that's a little uncharacteristic of her. So 10:20 left in the second half. DeLaSalle still leads, 52-36. Minnetonka and Orono to follow. And Alex, I know we have the, I don't want to say weird start, but the Tip-Off Classic kicked off this season for a lot of teams. Thanksgiving coming into the second week of the year. But going back to our discussion earlier, 3A, Alexandria bounced back. They beat a good Stewartville team after losing to Marshall. And then Marshall starting the year with that win over Alexandria. It makes you wonder, there could be a lot of contenders in 3A. And DeLaSalle, if they can hold on to beat Minnehaha, that's going to get some early
it's going to get some
early
attention.
looks.
Attention, no doubt about it. You know, and you don't want to place too much emphasis on a win in November, but as I mentioned earlier, if you're DeLaSalle, you managed to get a double-digit win tonight. They seem to be well on their way to doing so. That's going to be a huge shot of confidence for them.
And in Minnehaha with 2A, my money is still on Providence, but I feel like Minnehaha can make a case. Crosby, Ironton, Duluth, Marshall, they both made some changes to bolster the roster. If they can get out of that
I think
section.
And I think if you're Kendall Gibbons too, even though things are not going your way tonight, I think you can take a little bit of solace in knowing that your team isn't even close to hitting its stride yet.
Layla Moses, I think she found her stride and then some. And DeLaSalle just all over Minnehaha. It was close in the first half. Sine Hill finally gets a bucket to drop with the right side slash.
And finally, the Red Hawks dust off the cobwebs on their basket. They were stuck on 36 for a long time.
Dead ball rebound to the Islanders after Grievenhagen came up short on the reverse. Each team with 2 timeouts left. And Alex, I should also point out for Minnehaha, they have not played a 2A team yet. Moses can't get the roll this time. Minnehaha started with Andover. Now Andover took a step back this year. Orono, a team that has Maya Moore on it. No, the other Maya Moore, not the one you're thinking. And now DeLaSalle. So Minnehaha getting some early tests. And a game that I'm looking forward to. We talked about Addi and Jordan being the front runners for Miss Basketball, where they're going to play each other in February at Maple Grove. February 11th, I think, Alex. So if you're free that night, I know that's Northwest Suburban territory. I'm trying to see if I can lock you in advance.
Right.
Addi Mack, Jordan Odie.
Oh, wow, what a...
And Maple Grove lost a close one, Providence Academy.
Aneisha Scott, only listed as 5'7", but she's sure
more
seems
like
to play
5'5".
longer than that.
She's more like 5'5", but you're right. Whoa, look out. Foster, bullseye.
Finding a little bit of a spark here for Minnehaha Academy. Let's see if they can build off of that.
Now that is what you call making lemonade out of lemons. Jump ball. DeLaSalle with the arrow. Alex, that last 3 by Foster was the first triple Minnehaha has made in this game.
That's just so unusual.
With the three-point shot, though, so embedded in the fabric it boils down to how well you can shoot from distance. If you do well, you'll have a good chance. If not, you might run into trouble.
You know,
and DeLaSalle throws it away.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned that because a good coaching friend in the MIAC, who just happens to be sitting right over there, was telling me earlier tonight that the three-point shot, especially at the women's college and girls high school basketball, is basically the equivalence of a dunk emotionally.
Addi Mack draws the foul. She'll shoot 2.
And I think there's a lot of truth to that.
I blame Caitlin Clark for this.
Well, I guess if we have to assess blame, that may not be a bad route to go.
Well, Dowling Catholic, the school she played for, they're here. They are in the Twin Cities.
I'm sure there's a lot of Big Ten players and coaches who would probably tend to concur with your assessment.
Addi Mack can't get the second one. 19 points, a quiet second half so far, but we still have 8:25 to go. And Minnehaha, they've scored the last 6. Schaffa out to Starks. Thought about it. Now maneuvers inside. Meister. Short corner. That did everything but go in. That was halfway down, but not all the way. Addi Mack looking to handle that ball with care. Hill, Coleman surveys. Addi Mack, side fade, drops the 3.
I tell you what, only the second 3 tonight, but it came at an awfully good time for the Red Hawks. They crawled back to within 9, within 10.
Schaffa not there. Starks short on the putback. I didn't see contact. Mack to Coleman for the fast break deuce.
So now if you're DeLaSalle, maybe you need to start thinking in terms of a timeout here to get things settled down.
Or you can go to Scott, who will get the Plinko bounce. To your point, Alex, so both teams only have 2 timeouts. Remember, DeLaSalle had to burn one on a scramble play. Allen's 3 short. Bodies on the floor. 4-on-4. Scott through Mack and in. Aneisha Scott, give her a butter knife because she's cutting it up.
I tell you what, hectic on both ends of the floor here at the moment.
Back-to-back buckets for Scott, pushes the lead back to 11. And then Allen caught amidst a
great
trio of
defense
black
by
and
the
gold.
Islanders.
Well, Alex, you were talking about maybe using a timeout, and now DeLaSalle looks like they've righted the ship. Scott from the elbow. Looked like she was a little out of sorts there. Grievenhagen and Maya McNeil will check back in. .6:23. Grievenhagen. Fouled by Sine Hill. Now, I was told by the matriarch that Issa was not going to guard Sine. Sine picks up her 4th, and Issa and Sine, again, still close friends, might be sharing a laugh or a little bit of smack talk after this game about Issa drawing the foul. Can't get the front end to go.
You know, if you're Minnehaha, there was a ray of hope for you when you had things whittled down to within 10 points. DeLaSalle slowly rebuilding that lead.
Grievenhagen on the board. Still not a done deal, though. Remember, with the shot clock, teams can't stall out. But Minnehaha, they've got to make a move soon as we approach 6 minutes. Coleman trying to put a move on Starks. Grievenhagen swats the cross-court pass and eventually corrals it. Oh, that was close. A little offline, so Blaylar can't flip it in. DeLaSalle will run a set. And Aneisha Scott will reset. Aneisha. Sidearm skip. Griefenhagen. Yes.
Tell you, a great defensive play on the other end by Griefenhagen, and a great finish just now.
Lead up to 14. Mack, step back three, bullseye.
Well, let's see if the Redhawks have another push left in them as we come down on the 5-minute mark here, down 11.
Starks with the rebound. Jump ball, Minnehaha with the arrow. Something of note, Alex, to that point, I'm looking at the distribution. Addi Mack with 25 points for Minnehaha. The rest of the team has 25. DeLaSalle, 16 from Blaylark, 16 from Scott. And remember, they have a little bit of bench scoring as well. They've been able to outpace Minnehaha in that category. Addi Mack. When you have that elusive agility that Addi possesses.
Yeah, she had to wheel and deal there,
well,
and it worked out for her. She couldn't get the finish, but at least she gets to the charity stripe. And now, another chance here to crawl back to within 10 points.
Makes you think one of her anthems on this journey, Wheel in the Sky Keeps on Turning, because that's what Addi does. And John is like, this again? He had to put up with a few of my musical one-liners at a Totino Grace Bellevue West doubleheader last year. Addi Mack gets both free throws. She's up to 27. Margin back within 9. DeLaSalle got to take care of that rock. Can't let it skip past them. Whitaker Hill, 3 is short. Mack boxes out Sine Hill. She's got to play with the 4 fouls now. We're coming up on crunch time. Addi Mack knows exactly what to do in crunch time.
Once again, trying to take matters into her own hands, and so far it's paid off. That lead is now for DeLaSalle, now down to 7.
7 straight points for the Redhawks. DeLaSalle having to work through adversity again. They came up a couple points short last year against Minnehaha. Now Scott missed the mid-range J. Whitaker Hill.
Yeah, again, I think if you're Kendall Givens of Minnehaha, your biggest disappointment probably from this game is having DeLaSalle get second and third looks.
But this game certainly within reach now for Minnehaha, thanks to that 7-0 blitzkrieg. Scott backs off. It's a side out for DeLaSalle, just a dead ball rebound. Out of fouls to give. Shafa trying to go high off the window, can't score.
Here we go again.
Gut check time. Addi Mack.
I tell you, that one step that she takes is just so good. It's so quick. I mean, it's, up here, what she does doesn't do her skill justice.
Addi Mack, 29 points. And I think with Addi, because she focuses on basketball compared to someone like Madden Greenway, who's a 3-sport athlete, and some others, I think we sometimes forget about Addi's quickness, that agility, the first step that you spoke of.
Gets them both. 5-point game.
And Addi Mack continues her 30-point streak. I suspect Addi will be one of the figures in contention.
And
whoa!
Wow.
I know these two teams can't play each other at state, but you wouldn't know it right now.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Alex, before that scramble, I have a good feeling, a good bead that Addi will be one of the women contending for the state scoring title this year. She finished third last year. And she is trying to catapult a come-from-behind win. Moses draws a foul. Minnehaha had several to give, but Moses will shoot 2. And who's it on? That's on Gigi, her third. Remember, Sine Hill is 4. Layla Moses, 5 points. DeLaSalle and Minnehaha, Alex, 11 of 13 at the free throw line. Now, that's a good number.
Yeah.
It's a number you don't always see. Moses blanks. Rebound squirts out and collected by Blaylark. Shot clock goes to 20, as you know. Meister.
Yeah, she walked with it.
She walked, but that nearly could have been a fast break because she was going to throw what looked like an errant pass, and maybe Minnehaha could break for it, but it does give them another chance.
And the Red Hawks, who were on the brink just not very long ago of getting blown out, now have a chance to crawl back within a single possession here, Mike.
A 9-0 run looking to extend it here. Foul on the floor. DeLaSalle in the penalty. It was 61-47, Alex, with about 6 minutes left. Minnehaha, a 9-0 rally, has made this a photo finish. I figured it would be a photo finish. I just didn't think we would have an ebb and flow.
Right.
And Addi Mack, the fuel, the centerpiece, the springboard, as she customarily is. Sine. Can't get the second. Rebound tip to Meister. But 2.5 to go. DeLaSalle can't exhale yet. Scott was flustered on that jumper. Mack to Allen.
Wow.
Got the bounce.
Wow.
A 12-0 run. It's a one-possession game. Just like a year ago. The more things change, the more they stay the same, as the saying goes. And this showdown emblematic. Aneisha Scott with a tough drive and finish.
Aneisha Scott was hoping to get a call on that, and she didn't get it.
Big bucket, though. That's what counts. Addi wanted the foul. She doesn't get it. And now DeLaSalle. Whoa! Whitaker Hill had Foster on top of her.
Well, I
She
tell you what,
flips it
that
off.
little bit of a sequence may have saved the Islanders.
Foster tried to force it, I think. DeLaSalle looking to hang on. They should work some clock here. And that's what they're doing. Run this out. Now Scott. Minnehaha still has 2 more fouls to give after that grab by Mack. Alex, how about that fearlessness on display from Scott?
Boy, I'm just trying to catch my breath here.
That wouldn't be the first time. You and I have called games together for 12, 13 years now.
At least that, maybe more. No,
When did Tony introduce us?
Right. Back in 07 or 08, I think.
Maybe. 1:14 to go.
Well, here's my thing. If you're,
Yes,
if you're
your point.
DeLaSalle, things were kind of on the verge of going kablooey for you. You had that little sequence in there where the Red Hawks could have consolidated, could have leveled things, yet DeLaSalle was able to get 2 quick buckets and rebuild just a little bit of a cushion. Now with 1:14 left, it's going to be awfully hard here for Minnehaha. They're going to need to force some get some stops and convert on the other end.
1:14, still 20 seconds on the shot clock. 1 timeout left for Minnehaha, 2 for DeLaSalle. And Minnehaha still has 2 fouls to give. So if they don't get a steal, Alex, they will have to foul with haste because the shot clock goes to 20 after a foul. So the Redhawks, they cleaned up the fouling part of it, but now it put them in a tougher spot as a result. Addi Mack with 31 points. Again, at least through the early part of the season, she will be called upon to guide Minnehaha through this transition. DeLaSalle, again, they're also enduring or navigating a transition. Both had late coaching changes, so to speak. James Fassett was set to return, and then he took a job at Bay College, so Ana Garcia came in, and it certainly helps when you've got a lot of talent. Scott nearly lost it. Coleman has to foul. That's her 4th. That will reset the shot clock to 20, and Minnehaha still has 1 more to give. Still 1 more to give for the Redhawks. 1:08 on the clock. Meister. That could have been the dagger. Addi Mack draws the foul. And Alex, that is the last thing.
That was a bad angle for me to see down there.
Yeah. Sam, I'm looking at Sam. He's shaking his head. Sam is our floor cam. He had the best view out of all of us, and based on his body language, I don't believe he agrees with the call.
Wisp of a hope here left for Minnehaha, but they've got to make the most of their opportunities right here, and that starts at the charity stripe with Addi Mack.
Well, this is big. Addi Mack missed the front end. And I think that's going to do it. Look out.
You didn't need to do that.
The clock is still going. We may have to put a couple seconds back on. The clock ran for a couple of extra seconds because Hill ran into the scores table.
Right.
And in that situation, you're not necessarily concentrating on the Daktronics unit because you are bracing for dear life, as you and I have done. Remember the years we got to cover state and having to shield ourselves from errant balls?
Very often.
They reset the clock to 49.2, but I think DeLaSalle will get out of here with the win now. And then Scott got in trouble again. Coleman draws a foul. Now it's double bonus here with 36.1. So 2 free throws for Minnehaha. Gigi Coleman, the sophomore, one of the newer faces, averaging just 3.5 in the early part of the season. Here's the problem, though, for Minnehaha. There's 36.1 on the clock. They'll have to play foul and chase because there's not enough time to get a stop. And they still have a foul to give.
You know, the Redhawks had to work so hard just to crawl back, to within a single possession. It got so close. And at the most crucial juncture of this game, things have kind of started to go downhill for them. Only a 5-point game, but we've seen crazier things happen.
There was some confusion at the scores table. The foul was assessed to another player. It was on Mack. We were able to pick that up from here. That's the second time Blaylark has bounced the ball off an opposing player. That tells you how much her floor awareness, her situational awareness has evolved over the years. And that's what you're trained to do, Alex. If you don't see an option, Addi Mack will be hit with her third foul. But if you don't see an option, bounce it off an opponent.
Right.
And you get a chance to do it over. With this extended ending, we'll probably go right to our next game with Minnetonka and Orono. We'll need a little bit of time to reset. Aneisha Scott. This will be 1-1, 18 points. Richmond, I believe, in the Atlantic 10, and I can't wait to see what Aneisha does there. I can't wait to see what she brings to this team this season. She has come up clutch ever since her freshman year. Sine Hill missing the layup attempt, and DeLaSalle will hang on. Minnehaha made it interesting, but Aneisha Scott, when the lead was down to 2, Aneisha Scott eked out a tough layup, and that was the difference.
I tell you what, her toughness has really shown through here this evening.
It's an extension of her clutch playmaking in these situations, going back to that Mankato East game where she hit game-winning free throws, tie game, and able to get the job done.
There we saw another reason.
The offensive rebounding. And Minnehaha, they don't have a true 5, much like a year ago. DeLaSalle working on getting their post player back. Dylan Tubbs tore her ACL last year and won't be cleared to play until January. But we saw Moses play well against Eden Prairie last week. And DeLaSalle, they've got athletes. And that hasn't changed. No matter who is wearing the black and gold and who is coaching. Scott will get a couple more points to go up to 21. Mack to Anderson, gets the runner, but it's academic. DeLaSalle wins this edition of the rivalry, 68-62. Addi Mack with the game-high 31, but Aneisha Scott getting 21 to lead DeLaSalle. And if she can continue that over the course of the season, you have to think the Islanders will be a front runner in 3A.
Well, and as I said earlier in this contest, a win like this for DeLaSalle, we know it's only Thanksgiving time, but trust me when I tell you this is going to be a huge shot of confidence in the arm for them.
DeLaSalle picking up their first win of the year. Minnehaha goes to 1-2. What a start. We've got a couple more games.
Looking forward to it.
So we've got a little bit of time before the next one, so we'll see if we can try to get someone from DeLaSalle up here. This is high school girls basketball. The Islanders beat the Redhawks 68-62. We're joined by Aneisha Scott, 21 points in DeLaSalle's win over Minnehaha. Aneisha, Minnehaha got within 2. You put in a tough layup, and that allowed DeLaSalle to hold on for the win. How crucial was that bucket?
I think that was a very crucial bucket. You know, they were coming back. We were kind of getting sloppy a little bit. The turnovers were coming, so it was kind of one of those where you got to just kind of step up and kind of put your team on your back right there for a little bit. So
Entering the season, you had a late coaching change. James Fassett took a college job, so you had to work with a lot of new faces in a short amount of time. How do you think yourself and all the other returning players have helped with the chemistry? And on the other end, too, you've had some new faces that have fit in pretty well, so kind of a little bit of a mix, but how has that all come together?
I feel like it's come together good. You know, the team adjusted very well to the coaching staff change, so that was good. And then our underclassmen have stepped up and showed what they can do in the big moments. So her coming in, she kind of set the tone, and we knew she comes from like a winning program, so we kind of just took it all in and got ready for the season.
Well, you know a thing or two about stepping it up, and you've done it for years. How would you say that has elevated? Because I remember you hit some game-winning free throws against Mankato East as a freshman. You come through in the clutch against a strong Minnehaha team. How have you developed that takeover, that clutch crunch time gene?
You know, there's like a thing that me and my dad always say, and the coaching staff is starting to say it, is like, don't ever get too high or don't get too low. You kind of got to stay in the middle. So when your time is up to come, you got it there already.
So you pick up a big one over Minnehaha to get your first win of the year. How can that parlay into the rest of the season?
You know, now that we got this win, we know we can hang with some of the best schools in the state. So now we just kind of got to keep that in our mind and keep pushing.
Before we go, do you want to say hi to anybody?
Hi to all my family watching, of course.
Aneisha Scott of DeLaSalle.